Okay, everybody, for this assignment, we're going to do a 3D squash and stretch. If you remember, when we did 2D animation, we did squash and stretch. This time it's going to be 3D, specifically with the bouncing ball. If you want to make yours like a bouncing character, or a character that's doing squash and stretch, as long as it's bouncing and it's doing squash and stretch, that's all right. Shift A to bring the menu to where your mouse is. And then curve, and then Bezier. Yeah, okay. It's there, it's just very small. Press S to scale it up. I'm going to press R, and then the name of the axis that I want to flip around. So I want to say, at least for now, X, and then I could freehand it, yeah, and then click to commit. Or I could press 90, so RX 90. Look at me, I got that wrong. To fix that, I can do RX 180, yeah, I like to flip it around. However, whatever gets you there, guys. I'm going to change the shape of this curve, then I'm going to add to it so that the ball can bounce multiple times, right? Right now we just have two vertices. I go to edit mode, I can see that, two Bezier curve handles. There's one vertex, there's the other vertex. Yeah, and keep in mind, you can always just press tab to switch between object mode and edit mode. A quicker way of doing it. Anyway, I can press G. Now I'm moving, when I do that, I'm moving the actual Bezier handle, which changes the shape of the curve. Okay, and for this, it's going to be a ball that starts in the air. At least that's how I'm going to have it. So maybe I just want to move this vertex up actually first. If I press G and Z, it'll just go straight up. Just good habits. When you're making this curve, try to keep it somewhat aligned with an axis. Mine's already getting a little bit wonky, but not the end of the world. Just don't have it be crazy. Okay. So that's going to be there. I'm going to move this Bezier handle, maybe it this way. You're not really going to get it perfect starting out. Again, moving that vertex. Okay, so the ball's going to go up here and drop down. Sure. This Bezier handle, I can select it, press G, so the ball's going to drop down. Yeah, it's about where I want it. So if I press this next vertex, if I press E, I'll extend this out to get another vertex now. So I press E, and don't worry, even if it's not the shape you want, it's alright. I'm going to press Y to restrict it so it only goes along the Y-axis. Cool. Maybe that way. Okay. First thing I want to do is this shape. I don't like this shape because if the ball goes up, I don't want it to just kind of float down a little bit and then gradually start to come up, because that's not how bouncing objects work. What I'm going to do is I want this to be at a sharper angle, so it hits the ground and bounces back up again, right? If I press G and get under, like right under the vertex, I'll be able to get, you can get sort of a sharper angle there. I think y'all can see it. If you combine that with the other vertex, you can pretty much get there. Yeah. Yeah, there we go. I'm getting close. Or at least I think I'm getting close. Let's see. Not exactly. A little bit off. If you find that, you can just click on a vertex, and you'll pretty much always see there's an obvious problem. So I'm clicking on this Bezier handle, moving it over, and that's kind of closer to what I want. Okay. So it starts off high, it bounces, then it's not as high. Now I'm just going to add a third vertex. Yeah. Not perfect, but it's fine. I think. Is it? Yeah, good enough. Okay, so I've got my curve. I'm feeling alright about it. The ball's going to start up there. Bounce, bounce. So I'm going to go back out to object mode. I can do that up in the upper left, or just press tab and back out here. Now, I'm going to add my sphere. So if you can go up to add, mesh, and UV sphere, or you can just do Shift A, mesh, UV sphere. So it's there, it's just very small. Before I scale it up, I'm gonna do something and probably suggest that you do it too. If you press N on your keyboard, I know there's a lot of keys to remember, but N as in Nancy, it brings up this series of tabs here. Click on the one that says item, and under item, it's going to tell you all kinds of information about the object you have selected, so the sphere that we added. And it says here it has a scale of 1 for X, Y, and Z. Okay, so the default size that it gave you, it's counting that as 1, but we can change that, we'll change that in just a bit. You'll see that as I scale it up, as I make the ball big enough, about the size that I want for the curve that I created. So I'm clicking to commit. If I look at scale, it says that is a 31.497. I just don't like these numbers. Since this is the default size that I want the ball, and I'm going to be scaling it kind of back and forth, I want this to be 1 for these, okay? So, and this is, I would suggest that you do this. Go ahead and go up to Object, the Object menu, and then Apply, and then All Transforms. And now the ball looks the same size, but scale, now it says 1 for each of those. Okay, so this is now kind of like we reset the default value to be this, which is good. It's useful. It'll come in handy. We're just kind of setting ourselves up so that we can easily animate this. Okay. In the middle of this sphere, you can see the orange dot. We call that the object origin. Okay, if I were to, thing is, if I were to scale this down, say it hits the ground and I scale it, let's say I even scale it vertically, right? Because it hit the ground and it's getting squashed. If I press S and Z, which means to scale it vertically, and so it scales down, and maybe I'll even scale it. You can kind of see where I'm going with this, maybe. Um, and then maybe I scale it out even, right? Because it hit the ground. But I would not want this because when the ball hits the ground, it doesn't float. It doesn't float like that in midair. So the thing to do, I want to squash down, right? I don't want to squash inward, because we saw what squashing inward is like. We don't want that. So in the upper right of the viewport, it says Options. What we're gonna do is move the origin so that it's down below, at the bottom of the, so that it's down at the bottom of the sphere, so we can scale it. We can not have any problems when we're trying to animate this. We're gonna go to Options and then Affect Only Origins. So I have that checked. Okay, so now it's only going to move the origin now if I press G and move my mouse. So I'm pressing G, moving my mouse. You can see the orange dot. It's now at the bottom. Anywhere toward the bottom is pretty much fine. There we go. But just remember, after you've done that, go back up to Options and uncheck it. Okay. But you can see now that I've moved the origin stays with the ball. Okay, it's there. When I scale it like it's being squashed, there we go. It's scaling downward. It's going to make my job a lot easier. Okay. If you remember from the last assignment, we have the constraints. It's this one, this blue one. Do add object constraint, then clamp to, and then you can pretty much ignore most of that stuff. Do the eyedropper, click on the curve. So under clamp to, under the constraint we added, click the box that says cyclic. We can now move it along the curve. So we're ready to start animating. Down below I've got my timeline. What I'm going to do is turn on auto keying, which is this button. I want to move my playhead to the beginning of the timeline. Okay, now I'm going to do it. Press G and click. Okay, it has set some keyframes here. Yeah. And if we open up in the timeline, open up this little menu, there are these kind of sub-menus. If you click them open, it'll tell you exactly what the thing is that it is animating. So far, we've got keyframes for X location, Y location, and Z location. I'm going to give myself some room, go out to maybe frame 40. It's up to you. So I'm just going to move it. I have auto keying on, right? So right now, we're just going to animate the location and not the actual squash and stretch yet, okay? So I clicked it. At frame 40, I got those keyframes. I'm going to move out to maybe 44, but up to you. And in this spot, I'm actually going to not move the ball very much, because we're going to do some squashing and stretching here. Maybe it's not going to look realistic. I don't know. We're just trying to emphasize action right now. Maybe here-ish, so it moves just a tiny bit within that space. And then I'm going to go out to 80, just to be consistent. For my next bounce, here, sure. 80, and then what, 84? Yeah. Clicked again. Okay. And then out to 120 for the final bounce. The final boss, the final bounce. Clicking. And then maybe at 124. Great. So I've animated the ball bouncing. I just gotta do the squash and stretch. You'll see it's kind of easing into the bounce, and we'll fix that afterward. We'll focus on this first bounce, and we'll do the squash and stretch, okay? S and Z. S and Z, right? So it's squashing vertically. The problem with that, I don't know if you could tell, it's actually not stretching. It's only vertically shrinking. So that's kind of an issue, if you don't know what I'm talking about. Okay, so as I scale it down vertically, I want it to stretch out horizontally. So I'm going to do S and Z. Yeah. And then I'm actually going to do S and then Shift Z, which means that I'm going to scale it. I'm going to increase the scale on every axis that is not Z when I do the shift. I think that makes sense. So there we go. I just grew it out. Let's see what that looks like. I set that one keyframe, but the problem is now it's just a moving pancake. So I'm actually going to want to set a keyframe before it and after it, where it's starting at normal size, then squashing down, then returning. Okay. So for me, I'm going to say 38. I have auto keying on, so I'm just going to move it back. Remember, I set myself up. Well with my default values, right? So now I can just, if I want normal size for scale over here on the right, I just enter 1 for those values, and then back to the right value. So here we go. Okay, now it's squashing. And as it rises up, maybe it'll reach normal size again up here. So I'm moving at 47. So I'm just putting those 1 values. Let's see how that looks like. Yay, okay. Now I'll do it again. So we'll say, this time we'll be smarter about it. We'll say that it's a 1 value, like normal size here, so I'm just going to tell it to be normal. S, can I do that? S, and I'm going to have to trick it. I grew it slightly, I'm going to just bring it back down. Cool. Okay, so I've told it to be normal there. And then here at maximum impact, this is where I'm going to scale it vertically. If I were to be exact about this, I would go back to this value and I would find that value, like 1.509, and I would type it in here. You know what? I should do that. I should do that. I will. 1.509 and then 0.490. Here we go. Maximum impact. This was it, right? This was the spot? Yes. There we go. Yeah, yeah. And then back, and then out here we'll be back to normal size. 1, 1, 1. Okay. And then for the last one, we'll do it again. You can also just edit these things straight into the little fields here. 1.509, sure, why not? Okay. Great, let's see, let's see. So here's my animation. Yeah, that's pretty bad. I forgot to tell it to be normal before it squashes, so here we go, tell it to be normal. As it approaches the ground, it starts to slow down, and then afterward, it's slow, and then it speeds up at the top of the arc. You'll see what I mean. So it's slowing down, speeding up, slowing down. It may be hard to tell, but it's not. It has to do with the interpolation of the keys. There are different kinds of interpolation, so we'll just fix that. If you move your mouse down in the timeline, press A to select all your keyframes. Then right-click, and then go to interpolation mode. There are different kinds of interpolation here. There's constant, linear, and Bezier. By default, it's on Bezier. If you're curious, there's also, we won't use this, so don't use this, okay? But constant, this is what constant would be, just to kind of show you what interpolation is. Constant would be like only moving to the exact keyframes and not interpolating at all. But we want linear, okay? Linear, okay, there we go. So we got that going. We're gonna go ahead and add a camera. If you do Shift A and then camera, rather than manually adjusting the rotation and position of this camera, I'm just going to add a constraint to it, like last time. A track 2 constraint, and we're going to track it to the ball. Okay, so eyedropper, and there we go. It should follow it. Let's see what this looks like. There we go. It's doing it. It's doing it. Okay. So all I got to do is change my output settings and render it out. Over here on the right, the output tab. If you click on the folder, you can tell it where you want to save. I'm going to change it from PNG to FFmpeg video. Under encoding, this one here, encoding, change that to MPEG-4, and you should be good. Up in the upper left, at the very top upper left, go to render animation, click that, and it'll start rendering out your video.